Alright everyone, hello and welcome to the World Pokemon Federation Season 9 VGC Drizzle PRs with our co-host and weather mod, Jace.
Hello, hello, hello. They call me the What a Man.
Who is they?
No, they don't. Nobody calls me that. I'm sorry I said that.
you, Jace? You're the they, and that's
Me.
what they say?
I call myself the What a Man, and now everybody else they call me the What a Man right now.
Okay. I will inform everyone about your new title. They will know
actually,
once they see this video.
That's the real point of this video. People don't care about power rankings. They just want to know what they're doing.
Yep, they just want to know about the weatherman. That's what they're here for. Good old Yachi.
Right.
Okay.
And now that we've done that, we can get into the, I guess, the prologue.
Yes. So
Or the epilogue.
it was a dark and stormy night. Or I guess it's probably the morning by now. What time is it? 6 a.m. Yeah. It's still dark and stormy.
1:45 p.m. Night. Can we do cuts?
No. Cuts are painful.
No.
I don't edit. I'm sorry. So basically, the Drizzle 16 coaches, we gave them letter grades based on how well we thought their team synergized together and whether it had access to tools that we view as important. And those grades range from C- to, I believe we do have an A+ team. Do we?
No, we just have A.
No, okay, just up to A. No one has the absolute. No one hit the absolute nuts. No one has every single mon is literally colossal, and a trigger mon. Unfortunately, no team has 9 colossals.
If somebody drafted 10 colossals, then they would get an A+.
This is true. This is true. You can heat wave and self-activate yourself.
Oh shit!
Somehow.
Heat wave and self-activate. Yeah, that's right.
Just miss the opponent's mon so hard that the heat wave hits your side colossal.
Of course, and yourself actually.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, so we'll be going through this like a less conventional power rankings. In draft order, we'll be discussing the teams, and then we will highlight our top 5 teams. So,
if you're curious as to why we're doing that instead of putting people in a very explicit
because
order,
a gun was held to my head.
Yes, it's because I don't like the way that it makes people feel when they get put last. And I've never been put last, but I have had people in leagues that I was passionate about drop right after the power rankings came out and put them in last because they felt so bad.
I'm not sure.
And Drizzle coaches can take it.
I'm not sure that's historically happened in the WPF, but it's unfortunate to hear that some people take it that seriously. I generally just take it as motivation to play harder.
Yeah.
Like getting first, that is being cursed.
I think ultimately, a lot of the time, it can end up making people feel bad about themselves.
This represents the view of the World Pokemon Federation weather mods,
and also electric.
It does not represent the views of Mancini the Amazing.
And
is Mancini not amazing? Italy in UEFA finals. Here we have the first overall team, which was Sebi. So Sebi drafted first overall Togekiss, which is an interesting, but I think good pick. How do you feel about Togekiss as a first pick?
The thing with Togekiss as a first pick, like a first pick overall, is you have to have solid other support options. Because if you draft it first and then it's your major support Pokemon where you're bringing that and then like 3 heavy hitters, it's only going to be a follow me bot, in which case it's worse than Clefairy. Yeah. But if you draft other good supportive Pokemon that allow you to use Togekiss variably as a follow me user and as a nasty plot user and as just a turn 1 scope lens max airstream user, then it's a really, really solid pick. It's probably one of the most versatile Pokemon that you can possibly draft.
Because you can even run, like I've even seen people pull off the Hustle variants with Max. Like the fact that it has such an insane variety of options can be very significant. But as long as the team is capable of fleshing out those options. So then Venusaur and Torkoal. Yeah, well.
So yeah, this is insane, right? You have Togekiss first pick, which I think is generally not like the strongest first pick. I think Togekiss went maybe round 2 in Drought.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I think it technically went round 3 in last season, although most people picked restrictions in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I think obviously because last season was a Series 8 draft, it kind of went the priority of things. But yeah, I mean, Togekiss into Venusol is an incredibly solid wheel. And then they picked up a number of other mons, H-Slash, Mudsdale, Oranguru, Araquanid, Gladios, Wartortle, and Duosion. Obviously, the last couple, Wartortle and Duosion, were just there to use excess points, because there's a mandatory, you have to draft 10 mons, rather than a 9 to 11 as some leagues do, or 8 to 12, as I've even seen. So that was
both of these Pokemon were 2 points at the end, so anything they're offering is going to be just extra little bits on top of these core 8. Yeah. But if you evaluate these core 8, just the top 3 alone are going to be able to win a lot of games.
I mean, the top 3 alone are
Venusaur and Torkoal are both. Yeah, they're both round 1 picks. So this team has 3 round 1 picks at the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, Venusaur and Torkoal making it back to you is very strong. Like, they are both incredible mons. Often you do see like Venusaur and Charizard going round 1, and then either of them hoping Torkoal gets back to them, and often Torkoal doesn't even wind up getting back to them. It's interesting. In a lot of earlier leagues, you have so a rule that in this particular season is that the regular and Gigantamax version of a Pokemon are merged together. So Sebi has access to both regular and Gigantamax Venusaur, and often you see like a Torkoal going like round 1 or like early round 2, and then them being stuck with regular Venusaur. But this got Gigantamax Venusaur and Torkoal both, which is a very powerful combination to get back on the wheel. I think it's probably... I mean, you of course know how good Gigantamax Venusaur and Torkoal can be, Mr. Jace.
Of course, yes, yeah, but that's the thing that's crazy about this team is, in SPS, my top 2 were Venusaur and Torkoal, and the rest of my team was kind of filling out other roles that I needed. This team has Venusaur and Torkoal as 2 of the top 3, with Togekiss as an even higher priority pick for them. So it's just like that team that I had, which made it all the way to finals.
Yeah.
But even stronger.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think, a little bit less well organized than that team. I think there's a bit of like confusing picks going on here. Like, Mudsdale is obviously a decent mon, Araquanid is a decent mon, Oranguru is not the best Pokemon at setting Trick Room, but in terms of Trick Room setters, it provides the best possible support in Instruct. Obviously it doesn't work on Max moves, but outside of that, Instruct is phenomenal. The fact that it has telepathy means that you can use a full team spread moves, which is nice. Inner Focus being able to fake out is quite nice, and I've even seen a lot of strats abusing weakness policies with Symbiosis to allow Oranguru to then put an item over to its partner mon. So it is a very, very powerful and diverse Trick Room setter. I'm just not sure if it has the most immediate synergies with Mudsdale, Araquanid, and Aegislash as the abusers, or even necessarily with Torkoal, though obviously Torkoal doesn't tend to need it. Like, it just Instruct Interruption's very strong.
Right. Yeah. So that's really the only big flaw with this team is the Oranguru here. But again, like, of a low-tier Trick Room setter, Oranguru is a great one. Inner Focus, making it immune to Fake Out, makes it very good at setting up Trick Room, along with Togekiss. That's basically a guaranteed TR, and then you can sweep with any strong Trick Room mon, such as Torkoal, Mudsdale, or Araquanid, as great options. Plus, there's the little cheeky Duosion in the back for a base 125 special attack, right? Yeah, base 125 special attack, base 30 speed Pokemon, in addition to very strong Mudsdale, very strong water bubble boosted Max Geysers for Araquanid, or of course, Eruption from Torkoal.
Yeah, it's definitely an option. It's not a strong enough team. I do think it's maybe a bit weird that they don't have a Trick Room setter that can easily prop weakness policy onto Araquanid or Mudsdale. But I do believe Oranguru gets a Brutal Swing to like the classic Oranguru thing is that it's either like bulldozing or brutal swinging, and then Symbiosis the item over to the mon and activates a weakness policy on, which it can obviously use either with Aegislash to make them slower. I will say I don't know, kind of like a bit awkward speed-wise in terms of Orangu and H-Slash. I think a lot of teams, a lot of their other mons are a good deal slower than them, like their Trick Room abusers. So then it's like...
Right.
Very interesting. I mean, obviously, just having a base 20 mon, it means the Trick Room is very, very good.
Yeah. This team, when you draft Torkoal for the amount of points that it went for, which was something like 15 or 16 in this draft board, you definitely want to have a strong Trick Room mode to exploit it, or else you're better off having a Ninetales, because even though Torkoal has a lot more damage output with Eruption, if it's always going second, you're very likely going to be taking damage with that Torkoal. And Ninetales has higher speed, higher special attack, and some other techs that Torkoal doesn't have that can combo with Venusaur as well. So if you have the Torkoal, you really, really want to be doing Sunroom stuff with it. And this team can definitely pull that off. Again, Oranguru and Duosion, not the absolute best Trick Room setters in the world, but they are good enough to be able to get it up consistently. And this team has strong other options in Trick Room. Aegislash, probably not the best one, but Aegislash also offers a lot as far as defensive switching in, taking in something like a Max Rockfall and a Togekiss or Torkoal, or like a Max Hailstorm that's aimed at Togekiss or Venusaur.
Yeah, Max Hailstorm's Max Airstreams. I believe it covers all of Venusaur's weaknesses, right? Except fire, obviously. It covers the flying, it covers the psychic, and it covers the ice. Yeah.
But in addition to that, this team does have a lot of Pokemon that like to Dynamax. Togekiss, Venusaur, Mudsdale, Araquanid, even Latios. Like maxing a lot, and you know, I've seen Dynamax Torkoal as well, to give it just extra bulk in certain matchups. And so Aegislash is good here because it's a Pokemon that doesn't like maxing as much, and so they have an option here that can stay out of max, abuse that King Shield, and attack really, really hard while also being able to play it defensively.
Yeah. Also, I don't think we mentioned it yet, but Latios does have access to Tailwind, which does give a lot of the more mid-speedy mons like Araquanid and Aegislash the ability to function in Tailwind, which is quite strong. So if a team is too pinpointed on their Trick Room options, the ability just to have like a Tail Room is pretty significant. Even if, and then have the obviously the Sun mode just for pure speed. But outside of that, like really the only other issue we noticed with the team was the speed gaps. So going 110 to 80 means that a lot of Pokemon 109 and slower, and to some extent even 110 mons can just decide to concede. Will have the ability to run boosting items, they'll have a lot of free EVs to invest into bulk, and that's also true between Togekiss and Aegislash at 80 and 60. So you're conceding a lot of ground in which your opponents can function there. But also a lot of teams then are also going to be dealing with the fact that they will probably not have a mon that's faster than Venusaur, or if they do, it's going to be forced to Scarf, and they almost definitely won't have a mon that's slower than Torkoal in Trick Room. So it's a very, very decent position to be in terms of that, but then it's more in the mid, and where we would consider a lot of the ordinary speed games to be where they are disadvantaged in speed tiers.
Yep. The other small nitpick we have with this team that makes it an A instead of an A+ is that they're only fake.
We haven't. No, you spoiled the grade.
Oh, the grade is visible. It's on.
Oh no, sorry, it's not. I will scroll down. I was about to scroll down at the end of the thing and show the grade. Probably should have discussed that. Yeah, no.
Shit. Well,
the visuals are slightly above where the grade is right now.
I see. Oh, so you don't have the full checklist showing?
Oh no, but that's only because it's also what the grade is.
I see.
Well, we spoiled the grade. Yeah, the full checklist is showing. Obviously, they don't have access to Intimidate, and we did talk about the speed tiers. Intimidate's nice, but it is not mandatory.
Right, yeah. So, again, this team isn't perfect, but as far as realistically constructing a team in a draft league format, this is one of the best that we've seen, just because it has such a strong top 3, and then the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks, in addition to those, offer great support to them, both filling out a slow mode and a fast mode, having good type coverage in other ways. It does a really, really, really good job.
Yeah, it's a very strong team at functioning, and it's often going to have a speed advantage, which is very nice. Yeah, very strong team.
So,
now we go to what is probably the best team in the history of competitive Pokemon. Perhaps even the greatest team in the history of professional sporting in general, which is my team here. As you can see, I got in second pick the Pokemon that is the best mon in the format, in my opinion, Tapu Fini, which, to be fair, I was expecting to get when I got second pick, but I'm very glad to have gotten it nonetheless. And then I just kind of went from there.
Yeah, similar to Sebi's team, this team has a very, very strong top three. Obviously, Tapu Fini being such a strong Pokemon, both with defensive utility and offensive utility, especially with Calm Mind. It can be a great Dynamax Pokemon, it can be a great Pokemon out of Dynamax, and it protects the whole team from status, which is exceptionally beneficial for the next two picks. Garchomp and Glastrier.
Yes, yeah. Garchomp and Glastrier benefit a lot from being immune to Will-O-Wisp. Garchomp likes not taking extra damage from Dragon-type moves because it's strong enough that it generally doesn't have to use the Dragon-type moves itself. And Glastrier obviously just really likes not getting wisped.
Right. And then if we look at, like...
Yeah.
Glastrier...
Basically beyond that, below that, it's just like fleshing out support options and control beyond that. So got access to two Trick Room setters, got access to Tailwind, got access to a number of Fake Out users, Thievul, because with Unburden it's got a lot of good support options like Fake Tears, and Snarl. A lot of this team is designed around being able to mitigate opposing Dynamaxes, and then ideally in the late game with a Garchomp or Glastrier or a Fini, or even in some games like a Cradily or a Thievul or Articuno, max and then clean.
So we can talk for a second about Glastrier. This team has Glastrier at round 3, which they were able to get by
someone else took it round
machinations.
3.
Yeah.
Someone else took it round 3. They were drafting a rain team, and I drafted the Kingdra for them, and they drafted the Glastrier for me. Because they were always planning on having a rain team.
But Glastrier round 3 period is just such a crazy pickup here. In addition to
very, very strong
Tapu Fini and Garchomp, which are already strong Pokemon, and so that allows this team a really great option to snowball, and with support from such strong Pokemon like Fini and Garchomp, this Glastrier is going to be really hard to take down. Now, if we look into the next couple picks, Glastrier, of course, is okay out of Trick Room because it's just so bulky, so strong, so hard to take down, period, that it doesn't need the speed control. But in Trick Room, it becomes probably the most scary Trick Room sweeper in the game. We can see this team has 2 Trick Room setters in Musharna and Articuno.
Yeah.
Now, they do share weaknesses.
But they do function differently, I guess, it was the thought process there. Musharna specifically is 1 point slower than Glastrier at 29 speed, which means it does have the ability to properly miss policy on Glastrier. Musharna and Articuno are most likely not going to be coming into a game specifically because of their type matchup into a thing, but more so their utility matchup into a game. Articuno is a good deal stronger. Articuno also has access to Tailwind. Musharna has a lot of good support options, as well as Rock Slide for disruption, which is quite convenient. I believe they both have access to dual screens, which Morgrim also provides this team.
Yeah, Fini gets those screens. Player and Articuno only gets Reflect, we can see in the move score section down here.
Right, we do see that slightly off the screen.
The thing about this team that's a little tricky, well, we should mention also, since we're talking about Articuno, is that its competitive ability discourages opponents from bringing Intimidate into Garchomp and Glastrier.
Yeah, the idea
which
was
is definitely going to be beneficial.
Yeah, was to be very physical heavy with the Garchomp Glastrier, then have Fini to be able to deal with Tailwind, and then Articuno Galar to deal with Intimidate, which are the 2 main ways of shutting down opposing physical attackers. So it was like I was deciding between Articuno and Braviary, and I ultimately wound up deciding on Articuno, just because of its access to Trick Room as well, and a few other options that it does have.
Right. Now the thing with this team is, if they were to want to exploit Glastrier and Trick Room, Musharna and Articuno Galar, while being good Pokemon, aren't the best Trick Room setters. Notably, like we saw with Sebi's team, Oranguru sets itself apart because Inner Focus makes it immune to Fake Out.
Yeah.
But neither of these Pokemon are immune to Fake Out or Taunt, and so they have to either protect turn 1 and then ideally live a double up and thus not work alongside Salazzle, Morgrim, or Berserker as Fake Out options, or run a Mental Orb for Taunt immunity, either of which puts them at risk for being doubled up against. Additionally, this team doesn't have strong redirection outside of Storm Drain and Cradily.
Which
so
is not super relevant, yeah.
if this team wants to set up Trick Room, it's never going to be their primary mode, because if they are running it a lot, then other players can pretty easily counter that with doubling up into those Pokemon, Fake Out, Taunt, or Imprison.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of that comes down to the fact that I think that trying to set trying to set Trick Room turn 1 and build your entire game out of getting Trick Room turn 1 is not a good strategy. This is not something which is a general consensus in the thing, but this is always something that I felt. So I didn't really try and design a team around getting Trick Room turn 1. I think getting a late game Trick Room with Glastrier is incredible. So I'm more than happy to have tried to build a team around potentially getting a late game where you clean and then disrupting the team in the early game, or getting KOs in the early game with Garchomp and then cleaning up with Glastrier or Berserker later.
Right. And of course,
yeah.
That puts you at the risk of your opponent snowballing you out of Trick Room first with their superior speed control. You can see this team has Galarian Articuno with Tailwind, and they have Morgrem for Prankster.
Thunderwave, broken move.
Thunderwave, but outside of that, their best speed control is like Icy Wind and Tapu Fini, right? So this team doesn't have the absolute best speed control. It doesn't have the best way of slowing down opponents that are fast, but it does have a lot of strong disruption options with 3 different Fake Out users.
Yeah, and Salazzle's one of the fastest Fake Out options in the format. I think faster it comes Weavile, faster comes Hitmonlee and Alolan Raichu with ability boosts. I think there's another one at 120, but it's not coming to mind.
Maybe.
But yeah, I think there's 3 other faster Fake Out options. I could have gotten Hitmonlee. I ultimately wound up going for Thievul as my support. For one thing, I could wait on Thievul longer. And for another thing, I like the access to Fake Tears. I didn't feel like coaching was that relevant. So that was really like a big the decision maker between those two. But I think often with Salazzle and Articuno Galar, if I do want to go for offense straight up, I should be able to, with those two, get a Tailwind up, and then, I don't know, use like a Jetpack on Salazzle or whatnot to try and get stuff beyond, try and get momentum out of that position.
And if you want to hear more about Electric's particular thoughts on his team, you can always check out the draft analysis that he posted, which is on the same channel.
Yep. Plug. I'll probably put
a few other things we'll mention. Yeah, is there's a Cradily here, which is an interesting Pokemon for whatever it was, 5 or 6 points. It's surprising to see here because this team only has 1 water weakness in Salazzle, so it's not really inviting in those Max Geysers, and in fact it gets in the way of Tapu Fini if it wants to be running Scald, for instance, or Hydro Pump. But on the other hand, Cradily next to Tapu Fini, where Tapu Fini uses Surf, is going to be boosting up the Cradily, which could actually allow it to use its moderately okay, its 81 special attack, to actually get some KOs with boost.
Yeah, and it also can, on top of that, stack that with a Meteor Beam boost, which is, I think, probably the main, the special Cradily option. And then the other thing is that Cradily can just function as Rock Slide spam in Trick Room, which is...
In Trick Room.
Yeah. It was originally going to be Marowak, and then it got sniped, and I didn't really know what else to go for. So I picked up Cradily.
That's fair enough. Yep. Now, so yeah, this team has a lot of good pieces going on here, has a lot of good support stuff. There are some key things that this team does lack. There's no electric type here, there's no fighting type, so the typing coverage isn't great, and then there's 2 psychics, 2 dark types as well.
2 fairies.
So there are 2 fairies as well, right? There's some stacked weaknesses here, and some of those things going on. And it doesn't have redirection as well outside of this Storm Drain, but still, this team works pretty well and is not the worst at covering for those stacked weaknesses.
I don't think there's I think the only free mon with redirection is Butterfree, which is 8 points. Otherwise, I would have gotten it over Cradily. It was 1 point more. I had 7 points, and I couldn't afford Butterfree, so I got Cradily. Otherwise, I think I probably would have gone for it. But yeah, so that's the team. So ultimately, we gave it a grade of B+. And it does have speed tiers intact because there's no massive gaps. I think the largest gap is 15 at every point. Oh no, 20 between Morgrem and Berserker.
But yeah, at that point, not a lot of Pokemon are worrying about outspeeding Berserker.
Yeah, I mean, often Morgrem is either going to be Sash and then generally max speed, or Morgrim is going to be like Eviolite and then it's going to be not running a whole lot of speed generally. And then Berserker is often going to be functioning in Trick Room.
Right. These speed tiers mean a lot more. The gaps are a lot more important at these top areas.
Yeah, more like the key area between like your 70 and your 100 plus areas. So really where a lot of the speed tiers matter.
All right, shall I move on to Lemur?
Yeah. Here's Lemur. So unfortunately, this season I was not gifted the gift of like round 3 Grimsnarl. It went in I consider a much more reasonable position of 3rd overall. And then on top of that, the team just kind of picked up Pokemon from there. I would probably describe that as the drafting process. They picked up Pokemon.
Yeah, it's hard to see the exact direction this team was going outside of the final 2 picks.
Yeah, I think this team generally, I would say, probably lacks direction.
Right. Yeah, we saw with Seti's team, obviously there's the Venu Cole is a super obvious combo. And then strong Trick Room with strong Trick Room sweepers. With Electric's team, we saw
like Misty Terrain, physical attackers,
Misty Terrain, physical attackers, and then like some fake out stuff in the back has different ways of supporting it. With this team, this is the first team we're seeing that doesn't have such a clear direction. Grimmsnarl and Porygon and Heatran as well are obviously really strong Pokemon.
Swampet's a good Pokemon.
Swampert's a good Pokemon as well. Aerodactyl. I mean, a lot of these Pokemon.
Lucario can function with good support for it. Storm and Marowak.
But we see not quite the logical flow of what's going on here.
I'd be very interested to see what Lemuro actually does with this team this season, because I'm really not sure what it's supposed to do. I mean, like, obviously Porygon 2 behind screens is very difficult to kill. He doesn't really have, like, I mean, he has alright Trick Room with Marowak as its abuser. The main concern with Marowak as a Trick Room abuser is that it's always going to be running a Thick Club, which means it's never going to be running, like, Room Service or an Iron Ball / Power Item to reduce the speed, which means it's always going to be functioning at that 45 speed tier. And then opposing Pokemon, and it's also true for Porygon with the Eviolite. So then opposing Pokemon who are using those items can often then get the speed jump on Marowak and Porygon in their own Trick Room, which is a bit annoying. And then, like, in Tailwind, Heatran is alright in Tailwind. Lucario is usable in Tailwind. Not really, but like it's okay in Tailwind. But then, like, their support for getting Tailwind up is dedicating Grimmsnarl to have Fake Out, and that's a Pokemon that already struggles. Very, very difficult for move slots because so many of its moves are so good. And then you're also then just having Pokemon in Tailwind that, if your opponent has speed control at all, is probably going to outspeed everything except Arrow in their speed control.
Right, and besides this, Sand Slash as well, which is kind of a
well, I mean,
core tacked on the end.
Yeah, well, if your opponent has speed control, then Sand Slash is probably going to be slower than their mons in speed control.
Right. You need Tailwind and Hail Up for this Sand Slash to be outspeeding. And it's interesting, this team has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Pokemon at base 60 or 65, right in this same area.
Yeah.
So you can see that they really wanted to get these mid-speed Pokemon that can function both in Aerodactyls, Tailwind, and with Porygon 2's Trick Room, which gives us the ability to go flexibly. But the issue is, if their opponent can outspeed them or underspeed them with their own Tailwind, with a Swift Swim or a Chlorophyll Pokemon, or with a Pokemon slower than base 45, which most teams ended up picking, it'll be hard for this team to really get off effective sweeps with these Pokemon.
Yeah, or even just, like I said, a Mon that's 59 or slower is probably going to function better in Trick Room because it can have access to Room Service, which Marowak will not function effectively if it has. So then it's like, oh, you can run a Bomb Snow with Power Anklet, but then if their Mon that's base 55 is also running a Power Anklet, then their team's like, too many of the Mons that are designed to function in either, that most teams are going to have Mons that can function better in both, and still be able to run that, right? Because if you're running Room Service on a Mon, but you're also running Speed Investment on it, it can function in their own Tailwind, but then it can also beat you in your own Trick Room. So I just feel like it seems to have, like, hyper-focused on being able to function in either thing. Both of their setters are super weak to opposing Fake Out. Their only Fake Out is Grimmsnarl at base 60 speed, so a lot of opposing teams are going to have faster Fake Out, and that means that probably opposing team's going to be able to fake out and then max move into Porygon or Aerodactyl and prevent Tailwind and Trick Room from getting up, which is not going to be great for their team's control of the game state.
Right. Yeah. A few other things we see going on here is the Lucario pickup here is very interesting, especially with no beat up option. Lucario mainly known for being a justified user, not one of the swords of justice, but sharing a typing with Cobalion and being a little bit more offensive with 110 attack, basically a discount Terrakion. But with no beat up here, it's really hard to see what exactly this Lucario is doing.
Yeah,
It
like,
shares a typing with Heatran.
presumably
So
it's functioning as a special
fighting
attacker.
type, right, with actually stronger special moves.
But
It can
like,
go either side, but even
it's not
still,
strong.
it's hard to see what it's doing.
Especially as a fighting type, like as a fighting and steel types are a great max option, and fighting types are terrible max option. And fighting types, or close combat specifically, is a great non-max move. But then Flash Cannon, and I mean Meteor Mash is not fully accurate, and then Iron Head is not the greatest like non-max move. So it's like a very bizarre Pokemon, Lucario, I think, on this team.
Yeah, I think overall this team has a lot of different pieces here that don't fully make sense together, but it's going to be exciting to see exactly
I'll be
what
very
this
interested
team
to see
does
Limarosa.
to make these fit together.
An interesting player. So ultimately, this team wound up with the lowest possible grade, the grade of C-, because its speed tiers go from 91 to 130, and then basically all of its Pokemon at like 60 speed. No Intimidate, and it doesn't even have Pokemon that can really function well with the weakness policy. We talked about it, and like the most interesting thing we could see is that if they somehow manage to keep up speed control with just their Hail Core, they get Ice Shard, Alolan Sand Slash for a snowball attack boost, and that's about the most interesting thing, like, that this team could really do. Like, it's in terms of like using items that scale damage quickly, which, I mean, Life Orbs are cool, but scaling damage is very, very powerful off the weakness policy. The damage difference is massive. Obviously, Marowak with a Thick Club does that automatically, but it's not that strong without the Thick Club, so it's not as impressive.
Right, yeah. And, you know, there's something to be said about a team that doesn't have obvious synergies that make sense when you look at it. But one thing that a team like that likes to do is be unpredictable with switches and defensive play and be able to use its tools to beat the opponent's options. But this team doesn't quite have the defensive things that it needs to do to live hits from the opponent, with only 1 fighting immunity and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fighting weaknesses, 3 water weaknesses, and only 1 resistance in Abomasnow.
Like if Heatran's out,
not the best answers to a lot of these types.
If Heatran's out, nothing covers Heatran's weaknesses behind it. Everything, like all of its weaknesses have one cover, kind of, if you can Abomasnow as a water check. Like, sure, they could theoretically switch in Rotom on a fighting move, or they could theoretically switch in Abomasnow on a water move, or they could switch in one of the 2 ground immunities or Abomasnow on a ground move. But like, if the fighting move comes out, Abomasnow is going to crumple. Rotom is not... this is the base form Rotom, which is very frail. It's got 50, 77, 77 defenses, so it's probably going to crumple to most water moves. And then, on top of that, your team in general is not really great into ground moves, because both of they have 3 offensive steals, of which Heatran is the only one that really has any semblance of bulk. I think Alolan Sand Slash is good physical defense, yeah, it does, but its special defense is quite a thing. Like, Earth Power's not very nice for this team to run into. And then just so much of this team doesn't really leverage the fact that they have a lot of resist to things, because a lot of the main mons share weaknesses.
Right. Alright, let's move on to HCK.
Yeah. There's HCK's team. So round 1 Thunderous Incarnate, obviously it's a phenomenal mon. And then a number of picks going after that. I mean, Katana is a very strong mon with good support. Gothitelle is a very interesting support Pokemon. Gengar provides a Parastrap. Then they have Klefki, which is another prankster support mon. Fungus is redirection. And then Umbreon and Luxray function very much as disruption. And then Wishy-Washy and Avalon can function as Trick Room abusers. Which Gothitelle sense.
The thing about this team that's exciting is, like, Thundurus and Kartana are really strong offensive threats, and then they have a bunch of great support for those 2 offenses. They have Fake Out Gothitelle, they have Gengar has all sorts of fun tools and can be offensive as well. Prankster Klefki, Redirection and Fungus, Damage Mitigation and Umbreon. damage mitigation in Luxray, and some fun little pieces at the bottom for Trick Room use. The problem you see is there are a lot of supportive Pokemon here, and really not as many good offensive threats.
Yeah, there's a lot of mons that function predominantly support Gothitelle, Klefki, Fungus, Umbreon, and then often Luxray, though obviously it can run more offensive gut set. It's just that then they're very physically oriented with Luxray, Kartana, and Thundurus, and then their only real special offensive threat is Gengar. Wishiwashi and Avalugg both prefer physical when you use them. Wishiwashi can function specially, but its physical move pool is significantly better. To memory, I'm pretty sure it only gets really Ice Beam as special coverage, whereas it gets a ridiculous amount of physical coverage. So I just feel like this team, on top of really lacking, like it lacks direction outside of, the only thing that I can see is like a clear aspect of direction is Perish Trap. Perish Trap is a specific direction for this team. I don't know if it's necessarily the most consistent thing where both Gothitelle and Gengar are going to be dying to the same coverage move. Unfortunately, I'm just not sure that they are the best options to combine a Perish Trap, especially in a format where max moves can still deal damage through Protect. So that is obviously not the strongest position to be in. And then Klefki and Thundurus both kind of like overwrite each other with just like, oh, we do pranks to things. And then like Klefki and Umbreon and Luxray all predominantly exist to mitigate damage. Gothitelle with a Fake Out, like, they really abuse Fake Out, right? Like I don't think any of them ones really care that much. Like a Kartana is probably not getting a Swords Dance off just because one of the mons doesn't have a thing, right? Like it's probably just gonna get like airstreamed into, maybe go down to a Focus Sash and then die the next turn.
You could see Gengar or Thundurus possibly getting a nasty plot or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe,
they're just not really, I think, bulky enough to really abuse the thing. Like they're still going to be being targeted by one slot, and then they're still very frail, so they're not going to be doing a whole lot if they're not maxing the first turn. So I question what Gothitelle really does outside of providing Trick Room to the Trick Room options here, or the Perish Trap option. Yeah, so it's just a team that it doesn't really have clear direction. Obviously, if HEK, we see how they use it. It's very interesting. Then that obviously can change the thing. They are very, very clumped up in terms of like their speed options. Thundurus, Gengar, and Kartana are all effectively, like functionally the same speed at 111, 110, 109. If someone has a Scolipede, it's going to be Rock Slide flinching both of them. It'll be very sad. I don't think anyone drafted Scolipede though. And then like everything beyond there, you then got a big clump up of support options with the Klefki, Luxray, Gothitelle, Umbreon, and then you just have like incredibly slow Pokemon, which are not going to be relevant outside of Trick Room matchups.
Right, and this team has Trick Room okay, with Gothitelle and Gengar as setters, Gengar being immune to Fake Out and Gothitelle being quite bulky, but they're both quite weak to Taunt, and
yeah, so if someone... Yeah, they don't have...
There's an issue.
Yeah, so they don't have Fake Out besides Goth. So, like, Fungus is really their only way to try and set up things. So if someone has, like, a Safety Goggles or Grass-type Taunt, that's going to very much be disruptive for that option.
Right. Now, the thing that this team is doing as well is Thundurus is going to be their max option a lot of the time, if not Kartana. And Kartana, being a great max option itself, is quite weak to those fire-type attacks, which are very much welcomed into this team, with Klefki, Fungus, and Avalugg being weak to them as well. And so Thundurus is really going to be the primary max option here, and it loves getting that +1 physical attack boost from Defiant.
Yeah.
But the only real physical attack or otherwise that it's encouraging Intimidate here is Kartana. There's not a big other threat.
Yeah, people aren't generally bringing Intimidate for Luxray and Wishiwashi or Avalugg.
Especially because Avalugg has own tempo anyways, which ignores it.
I honestly forgot about that, despite the fact that I swear I saw someone use an Avalugg team specifically because it had own tempo to ignore Intimidate.
Right.
So, yeah, a whole mess.
Overall, this team, one thing we thought about this team while we're talking about it was they spent a lot of points on Klefki, and if this Klefki was something just a little bit stronger, another offensive threat, this team would be a
Ideally, a special
lot
one.
scarier.
Yeah. It feels pretty redundant with Sorry, it feels pretty redundant with Thunderous as an opposing one, and then having a lot of other damage mitigation. It just feels like this team is going to be bringing like Thunderous, Katana, Gengar, two of them, and then two support mons, and those support mons are not going to do anything besides support, or it's going to be being all three of them, and then the people will just ignore their support mon and focus damage in the offensive slots, especially since Thunderous is going to be setting up electric terrain if it maxes, and then Umbreon's Yawns are not going to be putting Pokemon to sleep.
Along with
like,
Fungus' Spores.
Yeah, yeah. And Fungus' Spore is a lot less consistent with safety goal existing in general. So it's like it's just very very conflicting. So I ultimately we wound up giving this team a grade of C, because it doesn't really have a very clear like direction for the team to go. It doesn't really have weakness policy abusers. Technically, the only one I think that we mentioned was that Katana can vacuum wave proc Avalog, which requires them to have already set up Trick Room and then have Katana in the back in Trick Room to proc a weakness policy on Avalog, which is technically a strategy that they could employ, but probably not the best use of their Trick Room turns, to have Katana out on the field predominantly acting as a way to proc a weakness policy, given that Katana's probably not going to live after that turn.
Right. Now, there's some other cheeky things this team can do, but we won't name all of them because, we don't want to spoil things for the team just yet. And there's a few things that the previous team could have done as well that we may have been able to point out, but I just wanted to bring that up, that there are some strategies here that have been seen before on the ranked ladder that we haven't brought up that we'll leave off just in case HCK is relying on them for a tricky win. All right, should we move on to the Eagle Gene?
Alright, so hardest of hard Trick Room.
What do you mean? There's a Rabombi here.
There is a Ribomb basic bitch. This is true. This is actually true. Ribombi is physically on this team. It has a presence.
Right. So yeah, this team is such hard Trick Room. Incineroar is obviously a really strong first pick, but one thing we've seen a lot with Incin is like it offers so many things to a team. It's hard to see it really give a strong direction. And this team said, all right, Incineroar is going to be doing damage mitigation. It's going to be a really good fake out that can get out of there and fake out a lot. So I'm going to take advantage of that fake out with two super solid Trick Room setters in Hatterene and Dusclops. And then two super solid Trick Room sweepers in Escab and Rhyperior, in addition to obviously the Hatterene being able to do both.
Yeah. It's Incin as a first pick is good because it can support basically any mode. I would say the main exception that being Rain, which is not the most consistent of things. Most teams are not going to be in a position where the best direction is Rain when round 2 comes around. Obviously, the best direction that Gene got was Trick Room. Incin is capable of functioning in Trick Room, which is nice. And then Hatterene and Dusclops are both good Trick Room setters. Both of them are... Hatterene is impossible to taunt. It is weak to fake out, but both of them have very opposite counterplay to how you can disrupt their Trick Room. So if you don't know which one of them is going to be coming and setting Trick Room in prep, it can be difficult to prep for. You might have to dedicate 2 or 3 mon slots to trying to disrupt that Trick Room. But if you do manage to successfully disrupt that Trick Room, this team is going to be very much on the back foot for the majority of the team, especially if you have the Dusclops taunted and then all it's really doing there is Nightshading, or even worse, it may only have say Bulldoze with next to Rhyperior. So as much as many of these mons are very, very strong within Trick Room, or even a couple of them are strong with the Ribombi spot. Ribombi is also immune to fake out due to Shield Dust, but beyond that,
speed swap into
specifically it has speed swap
very fast
to make them go 124 base speed, which I believe we considered that 123 and up is a decent instant speed, and I think that makes sense. But then that's only really one mon that is having that. So then if that mon, if your opponent has any real defensive counterplay to that mon is also probably not going to be getting their a weakness policy off that turn, which is something that a lot of their mons can get off in Trick Room. Obviously Dusclops can proc a weakness policy into Hatterene, Dusclops can proc a weakness policy into Rhyperior, and or into Incineroar even, and that can make those mons even more threatening in the Trick Room. And then Hatterene itself often can enhances things with by setting up itself Psychic Terrain, or just like using
now,
GMX Smite and your opponents confuse themselves.
Right. We haven't brought up Tangrowth yet, but Tangrowth, in addition to the Incineroar, Dusclops, and Hatterene, make this team very, very hard to deny the Trick Room of.
Yeah, I mean it's some of the best options you could get for trying to make it difficult to deny Trick Room. But if a Pokemon has safety goggles, it's probably going to stop this team getting up Trick Room.
If they have safety goggles, they're still at risk of being faked up by Incineroar. If you are relying on taunting Dusclops, or just doubling into Dusclops or Hatterene, then you might get redirected by Tangrowth. There's a lot of different things you need to be considering when you're facing up against these four. Of course, 3 of the top 4 are mainly coming as support, so Eagle can't bring all 4 of them to a game, so every time that Eagle plays a match here, it's going to be, okay, how am I maintaining my speed control? My Pokemon are all so slow. Am I going to be focusing hard Trick Room? Am I going to be Ribombee? Is it going to be Dusclops Incin? Is it going to be Hatterene Tangrowth? Which combos am I going to use? Now, additionally, we should point out they have 2 faster fakeouts than Incineroar to fake out opposing fakeouts, in Toxicroak at base 85 and Persian at base 415. Now, these Pokemon have those things to offer with fake out, and Toxicroak has Vacuum Wave or Mach Punch and Coaching and Bullet Punch to activate certain weakness policies on these Pokemon. That's why Sucker Punch, in case you wanted to do weakness policy Dusclops. And Persian has Fast Icy Wind if you want to try to go for the fast mode, as well as Hypnosis. But those 2 Pokemon, along with this Glaceon, don't really seem to fit in quite so well with this Trick Room mode, because they're going to be outsped by most of your opponent's Pokemon if they're coming to counter your Trick Room, and they're going to be pretty slow regardless in Trick Room next to the rest of your Pokemon.
Yeah, so decent options, but it's very difficult to, I don't know. If this team gets Trick Room up, it's going to be in an incredibly strong position. I mean, Escavalier is one of the best anti-Trick Room mons, which means it can also function as the best anti-Trick Room mon, because, like, most teams are not going to have a mon as consistent as Escavalier at disrupting opposing Trick Room threats, right? Like, Escavalier is good because it has the ability to mitigate both special and physical damage generally quicker than any other mon is going to do it, because it can use Flutterby to draw special attack stats, and it can use Steel Spike to boost it in its partner's defense stat, as well as it also has Max Quake, and it's got an insane amount of coverage. So the fact that Jean is the one who has the Escavalier is obviously going to be pretty nice for them. But beyond that, it's just very much going to be a question of if they get Trick Room up and if their opponent manages to stall out the Trick Room effectively, whether it's by keeping the support pieces alive, like managing to somehow kite Incin and prevent it from getting up parting shots, from punishing things like leaving Dusclops in and not making it easy for opposing Pokemon to switch in those slots, or if the fake out mon of that game is Toxicroak or Persian, just avoiding KOing them, or if the Tangrowth is there, having good ways to mitigate the impacts of Sleep Powder, like setting up Electric or Misty Terrain, and then just stalling out the Trick Room without allowing them to get in their offensive pieces. It's going to be a very annoying game for Jean if he's not able to keep up the offensive presence in Trick Room for the limited turns the Trick Room provides.
Right, yeah. One last thing to mention about this team is the Incineroar first pick is very, very curious here. You might think something like a Glastrier would make a little bit more sense here as a really, really strong Trick Room Dynamax that doesn't care if your opponent is trying to stall it out because it's just doing so much damage, especially with a Chilling May boost. The thing with Incineroar is it's so good at using Snarl, Will-O-Wisp, Parting Shot, Intimidate to make the opponent hit weaker, but your opponents are often going to be not caring about that and switching out to stall out your Trick Room. So it doesn't make perfect sense here as a Pokemon, but frankly, it's an Incineroar and a current team.
Though they can obviously use weakness policy, like offensive Incin is an option, so they do have that option with the Incin. But yeah, it is a bit like Insane is obviously a mon they picked before they had really an idea of the direction. Insane can support that direction, and its access to both parting shot and U-turn allows it to pivot around decently. But that is still meaning that you're potentially going to be burning turns. If you're playing against teams with opposing sleep, Insane might not always get the chance to be able to switch out, and then you might just have dead slots. Obviously, if you probably don't want to be switching like Rhyperia hard in on like a Spore or whatnot. So it is difficult positionally, but it's very much going to come down to how he executes that position, and he's going to be very, very much reliant on being able to outplay his opponent's attempts to disrupt their positioning. So ultimately, we gave this team a grade of C+, because it doesn't really have a lot of speed tiers, it doesn't really have multiple modes. It's very much just Trick Room / a South Trick Room, which is speed swap, and then it also doesn't really have a good non-max attacker, was the other thing. Like, Toxic Rogue is, I think, this team's best non-max attacker. Rhyperia really strongly benefits from maxing offensively. Escavalier really strongly benefits from maxing offensively. Hatterene, if you don't have other other psychic terrain setter, like a Lele or an Ndidi, then it's probably going to be wanting to max itself. And then, like, even Glaceon doesn't really function without maxing, or, like, I guess being a spec set, but it's in a really awkward speed tier, and it's probably pretty frail, so it's probably not going to get too many moves off in or out of Trick Room without maxing. So it's just, this team doesn't really have a whole lot to do outside of committing max to the team. So that was our feelings on this team.
Right. All right. Moving on to Scribbles.
Okay, so Scribbles got Dragapult, which a bunch of people memed with. They were pretending it was going to be pick 1. Obviously, it wound up coming to, this is what, pick 6, I think. And then he went somewhere with this team. So with Dragapult, he's got like the recent beat up, which is obviously quite solid. Then he's got like an alternative beat up option in Dotrio. He picked up Sand, Tyranitar, Escadrille, very solid combination. Picked up Comfey. Comfey obviously can prop Leans policies in Dragapult or Tyranitar, which is very nice, or even Freezing, I guess, if you want to run special. Moltres is very solid offensive presence. It's very good, an extra good fighting switch in for the Tyranitar and the Escadrille. As a fire type, it can threaten a lot of the mons that Dragapult doesn't love running into, or the Tyranitar doesn't love running into, which is pretty nice. And then Suicune is a very decent tailwind setup. Then they just got like random support mons, so they've got Fake Out in Hitmonchan, they've got Intimidate in Herdia, or Sandrush Snarl with Herdia, or it can even function as like Scrappy Body Slam. Oh no, it doesn't get Body Slam. It only gets Frustration. I always forget that. But it's got options. It's got options. This team.
It's a Herdia.
And then Dogtriola, which I think is mainly just here as an alternative beat-up option, and it has Sand Force, and it's just cheap. Was the option. Really, the team you're looking at is these 7 mons, except Freezing is only really good if you're beating it up. So it's really just these 6 mons. And are these 6 mons a decent team? I do think so, yes. And this team really struggles just to use Tyranitar well, which is bizarre given how good Tyranitar is. But like Trick Room on Comfey is often not going to be like incredibly consistent, so Tyranitar's probably not going to have a whole lot of longevity, because Moltres is their, like, Moltres and Dragapult are the main ways of dealing with Tyranitar's weaknesses, but Dragapult doesn't want to be switching into a Max Quake, and Moltres doesn't want to be switching into a Max Geyser, so I still think it comes off a bit awkward there. So
still though, these top 7 Pokemon,
top 6, top 6 and a half.
Well, even with Virizion as a Pokemon, Virizion is something you're going to have to be prepping for. And if you look at these guys, they don't share a whole lot of weaknesses. They don't share any typings, right? So between Suicune and Dragapult, it's all different typings, and they're all good Pokemon out of Trick Room, and Titars are out of Trick Room as well. If you face up against just these top 7, it is going to be tricky because they do cover each other quite well. We've seen Dragapult and Excadrill work well in like the early series. There was a Dragapult, Excadrill, Togekiss core, and Comfey isn't a Togekiss here, but it is functioning well on this team.
Excadrill's Max Quakes and Steel Spikes are like some of the best offensive and defensive max combinations that you have out there, because they are incredibly strong and they also provide relevant defensive bonuses to the team, which is really nice.
Right.
Yeah.
They have relatively good speed control, with Suicune being a very bulky tailwind setter that's always going to be able to get it up unless it gets taunted. Airstream coming out from Moltres, and obviously Tyranitar allowing Excadrill to go fast, plus fastest Pokemon in the format, short of Regieleki,
And Pheromosa.
And Pheromosa, and some other less relevant Pokemon.
Like, your Unburdened Mons or stuff. It's only Ninjask otherwise. Oh no,
but even without
like
an obvious super fast Electro Web user or something like that, they have lots and lots of different great speed control things.
Dragapult as fast screens is really nice because Tyranitar has good natural bulk, Moltres has good natural bulk, Suicune has great bulk, Excadrill has good HP, so if you can invest it has very decent natural bulk, and Pult's one of the better.
That's why we were
screen
talking
setters
about
in the format.
Dragapult being such a great first pick, is that, even though it lasted this long, I think Dragapult totally could have been picked first overall, because it offers so much great utility to the team in a great speed tier outside of any sort of Sand or any tailwind like that. It offers a great max option that can attack on both sides with good special coverage and usable physical coverage. And it can be a great support model. Will-O-Wisp, Thunder Wave, Helping Hand, Ally Switch, Screens, Breaking Swipe, etc., etc., etc. Now, the flaws in this team, outside of what Electric has already talked about, is these bottom three Pokemon, while they're good, are going to find a really hard time justifying their bring, and what they're going to be doing is quite obvious. Hitmonchan is a fake-out bot, usually to let Suicune get up a Tailwind, to let Comfey get up a Trick Room maybe, or potentially even like a Swords Dance or something from Excadrill. Herdier, mainly going to be coming as Intimidate, Baby Doll Eyes, Snarl.
Yeah, it's either going to be Intimidate or Sand Rush, and it's going to have a bunch of moves that disrupt opposing offense.
Right, and Dugtrio is going to be, again, beat up, or maybe it'll be used offensively with Sand Force, but having the same exact typing as Excadrill, it's not going to be the most effective max option.
For teams that are really, really, really weak to ground. Which, to be fair, we've seen a few.
It's just doubling up, yeah.
All I'm saying is Excadrill and Dugtrio do wreck this team. He's lucky he had... the real reason he drafted it is he didn't want to lose to opposing Dugtrio. Obviously.
So funny. I mean, yeah, Excadrill in Sand or Virizion could both pretty much dumpster that Dougie, but yeah, again, this team
Dougie gets
really
a flying
strong
move for Virizion. It's the specific thing.
Oh, right? Does it get, Peck?
It gets bounce, thank you very much. And I believe it does also get Aerial Ace. I'm pretty sure it gets bounce.
I'm sure Dugtrio gets bounce. It does not get bounce, it gets Aerial Ace.
Okay, it gets Aerial Ace. I've seen it use Max Airstream. I don't know why I've seen it on the ladder before, but I have seen this mod on the ladder before.
It gets Aerial Ace.
Okay.
Yeah, so overall this team, it has some really strong strengths and some really glaring weaknesses. The other thing we haven't really brought up is the slowest Pokemon on this team is Herdier at base 60. So T-Tar, being a good Trick Room Pokemon, does not have the best Trick Room setter with it. Comfey is great as like a second or third Trick Room setter.
Or it's also good as an anti-Trick Room mon, where you like reverse Trick Room.
Sure, it can reverse it, and it's pretty bulky. But it's base 100 speed, so
yeah, and it's
really
also
not the best Pokemon in Trick Room.
It's also, it's stats-wise, not that bulky, though it can function obviously as bulky because it gets the priority recovery, though it gets less with Synthesis in the Sand. Priority Heal Pulse is obviously pretty nice for a few of the mons of this team. I don't know if it's like super massive. Floral Healing, yeah.
Yeah, overall, a lot of good things going on here. Pretty glaring weaknesses to Trick Room, and not the best low tiers, but overall,
super strong fundamentals.
Just you face it, really scary to actually prep for.
It's all very intimidating team. Threat. So they worked out with the very beautiful and very powerful grade B+. I mean, it's very, very fundamentally strong team. So we have, next we have the self-proclaimed antagonist of this format, the one and only Hyder Ali. So this is the team that he got Tornadus first overall, and then he was wondering what he had to pick, and I talked to him for his second pick, and for none of his other picks, and he picked up Lapras, which is obviously very good with Tailwind support. It's very good with like Raichu to prop weakness policies on it, and I have no idea what he did beyond after those first three picks. Which, yeah, I really don't know what was going through his mind, but some of the stuff.
Yeah, these first three picks are obviously super solid. Tornadus is a great offensive Pokemon with Defiant and support Pokemon with Prankster Taunt, Prankster Tailwind. Lapras being an incredible max option with Aurora Veil and damage at the same time, and a weakness policy abuser with this Raichu. Just these top three so solid. And then you see Regigigas. And Regigigas obviously is a very strong Pokemon. And at pick 4, you can often see this thing going pick 1, pick 2. The problem with it is right now you have Lapras, who really, really, really wants to max.
Yeah.
And you have Regigigas, who really, really, really wants to max.
Well, you have Regigigas.
And then
Regigigas is a very good mon functioning outside of max, but it's one of the best max mons in the format. Right?
And then Regigigas needs a coughing next to it to work. But if you have coughing out with any of these other Pokemon, Tornadus gets pretty boned by that.
Yeah,
and then,
it
and then you can see, as the team goes,
yeah,
there's a lot of max Pokemon here, and very few Pokemon that can actually function without maxing.
Yeah.
Lapras,
the best Pokemon that functions without max is Regigigas, in terms of being an offensive attacker. But then if you're not maxing Regigigas, you're spending a lot of points for a mon that is not going to be as good as it would be if you're maxing it. It's incredibly bulky, so with Aurora Veil up from the Lapras, it's going to be living a lot of hits, but then you're also just not maxing the Regigigas. It is an option, but it just means that, often this team is going to be functioning very heavily. It's either going to be 2 offensive mons, which is going to be a Regigigas that isn't maxing, and then a max attacker, and then 2 support mons, or it's going to be 3 support mons and a Regigigas, which is very exploitable. This team doesn't have any great way to stop Regigigas from getting burnt, which is of particular concern, I think.
Yeah, that's true. The later picks here are interesting in really different ways, right? Cobalion gives you a great beat-up mode, so now you have 3 different big maxes to deal with. You have Lapras and Raichu mode, or Lapras Torn mode. You have the Regigigas Coughing mode, and then you have the Sneasel Cobalion mode, with a couple last picks in Torracat for damage reduction and fake out, Dusknoir for Trick Room, and Lurantis for maybe a Trick Room attacker, or maybe a grass type is filling out those typing holes. But it's hard to see how these modes really fit together with each other. You don't really see somebody bringing Tornadus, Lapras, Regigigas Coughing, right? Because then you need to either lead Regigigas Coughing and then Lapras isn't going to max, or you have Regigigas in the back and then you have to risk Coughing getting killed before Regigigas can come out, or you have Regigigas in slow start. Similar issues as things go down. So it's hard to see how this team is going to make these different modes work together, but all of the modes are admittedly very strong. Cobalion being probably the best beat-up user in draft, with Terrakion being frail enough that it can die to faster moves. Lucario, Gallade, Virizion all having exploitable weaknesses.
Cobalion and Terrakion have the same... Well, Cobalion has a much lower special defense than Terrakion does. They actually are the same bulk, but its typing is more exploitable. All of them have the same effective bulk. It's just a question of Cobalion and Virizion have higher SPDF stats and then much lower. But Virizion is higher SPDF and then Cobalion is higher defense, but it is a much lower special defense, which is pretty exploitable. Having that 91-72 means that a lot of attacks are going to be coming through, and if they are special attacks, they are going to be doing a lot of damage to Cobalion, which is not optimal, I don't think.
Sure, that's true. But this team does have that Eerie Impulse from Raichu, and Cobalion being a Steel type makes it quite a good abuser. And the attack stat difference with Terrakion doesn't make a significant difference, as it's going to be getting up to +4 off of the Sneasel beat up, which should be KOing everything anyways. In addition to potential max.
Like a stab on the rock, it's unfortunate. I think that it's a fairly decent beat-up user. I think it's definitely a lower cost beat-up user for a reason. I think Sneasel and Cobalion sharing both the fire and fighting weakness, and then also Sneasel's not exactly a ground resist, Cobalion's not exactly a fairy resist. I feel like a lot of teams might just slap on a Scarfed Fairy, click Dazzling Gleam, Sneasel dies, Cobalion takes a lot of damage. They might pair it with a Fake Out Mon, and then just to break Sneasel's Sash, and then your Cobalion is going to be at +0, and it's going to have taken 30% through max.
Right.
And then it's just I don't know, maybe it'll KO the fairy, but it's probably not going to be KOing anything that it's not got super effective stab into.
Yeah. The other thing
Maybe-
with Sneasel is like,
Yeah.
what is Sneasel bringing to this team besides the beat up into Cobalion? Not much.
Just fast
Torcat
fake
is
out,
going to be a better
but it's not
fake out
that big.
user.
Yeah.
Sneasel is the fastest Pokemon on the team, so it can do fast Icy Wind or even potentially, base 95 attack triple axles. But Sneasel is priced
They have
pretty
Tailwind.
high generally. They do have Tailwind. That's true.
They have Tailwind. They don't need fast Icy Wind off of a
Right.
worse mon.
Exactly. So what exactly is Sneasel doing here? It's not really proccing policy on anything else. There's no like surf weakness here, but you often see Sneasel paired with Colossal, right?
Or something like that, yeah.
So, yeah.
There's not really something where it obviously is designed to proc weakness policy. This team is actually really only has Volt Switching into Lapras as a great way of proccing weakness policy, which is a downside on a team that looks like super strong. Like, they have, obviously, the Ice Shard, which they could put into Lurantis, but Lurantis is contrary, which is its main selling point, so you don't really want to be giving it -2/-2. I feel like these lack of there's a lot of clashes in terms of what a lot of these mons, these roles are supposed to do, so they don't really serve to flesh out these people's teams, which I think is probably going to impact High's performances.
Right.
All right, so
Still, the team has a lot of strong modes, so
yeah. Oh, right.
We gave it-
We gave it a B.
all right. Moving on to Ninjosh.
Ninjosh
This
has
team
a team. He is Pokemon on his
is-
team. Legally speaking,
Sure
he has
is.
Pokemon on his team. So
Yeah.
I would just like to point out that he is like, I have 1 point, someone else drafted for me. I picked him up Darumaka, and somehow Darumaka is his only Trick Room abuser on his team with a bunch of Trick Room setters. With the Pokemon that he didn't draft for himself. He also doesn't have Sand
Okay,
for the
wait.
Dracovish. It's just, I don't know what his team is supposed to do, but I don't think it does that.
Yeah, this team has so many strong Pokemon on it, right? Spectrier being a really strong base 130 speed, snowballing Dynamax threat, Cresselia being an incredible Trick Room setter, and also a good like Icy Wind, Thunder Wave, Screens bot, Clefable great for redirection, Durant is a great secondary max option to Spectrier, being a hustle user.
Yeah, I mean, Spectre can
Chandelure-
function outside of Max, which means that you can like max with the Durant or the Chandelure.
Right. And the Durant has the same typing as a Scavalier that we mentioned earlier, being able to boost up Spectre and Durant's offense
Def.
defense as
And
well.
Mitigating opposing special offense is pretty nice. I mean, First Impression itself is just a convenient move to have access to, even though I don't think they really care. Like, it's nice for Dark types that are trying to check Spectre, but so is Clefable.
So then you have, and then there's a bunch of other good options here too, right? Chandelure,
Yeah, I mean,
it's got a lot
Crobat-
of great tech options.
Crobat is the best Tailwind setter in the format because it's.
That's not true.
I would say it is because it's got enough focus, and most of the other Tailwind setters. Oh no, I said Drifloon was the best Tailwind setter in the format.
All right.
Because it can't be faked out, and it's generally going to be faster than anything. So like if you put a Focus Sash on Crobat, it's going to set Tailwind.
Sure. If it gets pranks or taunted, maybe that's an issue.
Yes.
Similarly, an issue for Whimsicott or.
Like, yeah, I mean, if you
Well, I
see
guess
that,
not.
If you see a team that has like I can practice taunt you, then you run a Mental Herbert on it in that game. I mean, I don't think the Regieleki team also has pranks to taunt.
Whatever it is, yes.
But that's like
Crobat
the one
is
matchup.
one of the best Tailwind
Yeah.
setters. It's hard to say what exactly the best Tailwind setter is because Crobat doesn't do a whole lot after it sets Tailwind.
Yeah,
Besides,
it's just good at getting up
Taunts,
Tailwind
Super
and
Fang.
then like Super Fanging, which
Sure.
is convenient. It's really nice with Spectre because if you Super Fang something and then get in range of Grimnay, to get a Grimnay boost, that is really nice. But they're
sure,
also
yeah,
like the same
and-
speed, and it's not really providing anything else. Like, none of the other. He doesn't have a Beast booster, so it's really only Spectre that cares about the Super Fang support. Like, yes, it's nice for defensive checks to other mons to get Super Fanged, but it's not as relevant as it is if you have Moxie, a Nay, or Beast Boost.
Sure. I think Grimnay is enough to justify.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. And we don't have to
it
talk
is.
so long about a single move on a single Pokemon.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the rest of the picks right here. Blossom, I think, was 2 points or something, which
But you priced for
is
it very
overpriced
early.
for sure. it's not a super good Pokemon, so that's why the mods didn't mind
It gets
underpricing a little bit.
chlorophyll, and that's what it does. I guess it, like...
Yeah, but it's
Don't have
Pokemon,
sun.
and it can do things. It has reasonable stats. It has Quiver Dance, it has Sleep Powder, it has Strength Sap, it has stuff it can do. Luxio as well, pretty early here. But, it's a good Intimidator. It's pretty bulky. It can Snarl, it can Volt Switch out.
It's got your
Intimidate,
impulse.
which is useful. Right. And then Dracovish with no sand, but Tailwind and also
Yeah.
Cresselia's Icy Winds are helpful for that. Chandelure offers an alright secondary Trick Room setter to the existing Cresselia,
Yeah.
which
Most of the moves that KO Chandelure,
stuff like that.
I'm not going to KO Cresselia.
Right. So overall, this team has a lot of different good Pokemon that on their own you can say this is great, right? Clefable is a great budget redirector, and that can also max. This
So
team
it's not budget,
has
right?
Spectrier, Durant, Chandelure. Well, it's not as expensive as Togekiss.
It's
It does
15,
different things.
and
was
Togekiss
a 15?
is 16.
All right, never mind. Clefable's a good redirector that can also max. It's basically
Yeah, I mean
discount
it's
Togekiss
actually
for one.
really offensive just through access, even as a non-maxer to Moonblast. Having being a fairy type, having decent attack stat, often being able to run a life orb because of Magic Guard, like in terms of like without a downside because of Magic Guard, means that you do get strong Moonblast out of Clefable, which is, I mean, fairies have good offensive typing in the format. But like, yeah, it's alright.
But
They're
there's a lot
really
we can say
doing
about
things
these
together.
individual Pokemon. How do they work overall? You have a great Trick Room setter in Cresselia and
Yeah.
no great Trick Room abuser. You're spending a lot of points on that Pokemon for not a lot of great other sides. You have Clefable with redirection support for like a hyper offensive Spectrier or Durant, or even like a Dynamax Chandelure off that base 145 special attack. But Chandelure and Spectrier are frequently doing the same exact thing. You have Dracovish with Tailwind as the best real speed control option to it, but no rain to boost it, no sand to boost it, and this team isn't really needing that water type so much to break stuff like. I guess it's good to break down fires for Durant, but rock types aren't really a huge issue. Ground types aren't a huge issue. Maybe for Chandelure.
And Durant already has rock coverage. Like, it's just not like it's cool. It's technically nice, but it doesn't really. It's not that super impactful. But Dracovish itself is a strong mon, and if they do manage to get speed control up, it can get chaos. It's just that this team really very heavily lacks direction. It has a lot of Pokemon that pull it in directions, and a lot of those directions don't really get followed through on. Like Clefable, amazing with getting a support. Like Crobat and Clefable perform the exact same support for Spectre in the sense of Clefable allows it to get a nasty plot, which means it does effectively double damage. Crobat allows it to Pokemon to have half HP, which allows Spectre to do double damage. Like they provide very much functionally similar things, and then they don't really just help to strengthen or diversify the team in terms of going towards a win condition. This team really only has Spectre as a win condition, or maybe like a late game Dracovish. And when you have this many mons that are good at enabling win conditions, not having win conditions is, I think, a fundamental flaw with this team.
Right. I don't think this team is completely lacking win conditions. Spectre with a snowball.
The thing is just,
is a good attacker.
Durant is a really good breaker. Durant is a
Hmm?
really good breaker, but it struggles to function as a win condition due to its relative frailty. Often it's better leveraging the early game turns for an early max to make progress, and then your late game win condition is going to be Spectre or Dracovish. Sure. And every single game, your late game win condition is going to be Spectre or Dracovish, or maybe like either once in a blue moon, a Trick Room like Darumaka, or a Trick Room Clefable.
Or a Cosmic Power soft-boiled Clefable.
Yeah. So ultimately, that's I don't know. That this team feels very pigeonholed into. It's got a lot of insane support options, and then not a whole lot to use that support. Oh, and what they have, a lot of it is very redundant. But yeah, this is the team. Yeah, it lacks real modes. It doesn't have any fake out users. Literally none. Not even like in the fact they were buying a bunch of low cost mons. If they brought like Thwacky instead of Blossom, then they would have a fake out user for also 2 points. They have no priority outside of I think Clefable gets quick attack and Crobat gets quick attack, and that's it. Shinx might get Luxio might get just quick attack from non-normal types. It's not really doing a whole lot. This team yeah, doesn't really have modes outside of Tailwind. And its speed tiers go 130 straight down to 109, which is a big gap, and then straight down to 85 with Cresselia, which is a massive gap. So a lot of times it's going to be giving their opponents a lot of leeway to work with speed. Though it will be controlling that top speed tier, which is convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
All
ultimately,
right, that's why
C minus.
moving on to Miso.
Yep.
All right, this team, back to the teams that seem significantly more coherent. So first pick Lando doesn't really take them in any direction, but then they take Charizard, which we see immediately sets them up for Sun, which they follow through on with Ninetales, Heliolisk, Marowak as a Sun abuser, and Lilligant as well.
Fletchling can pretend it's Fire type by getting a 1.5x boost to its Heat Waves.
Wow, amazing. They have a Sun core here, and sometimes we see Sun Room with Torkoal. There's no Sun Room here, but there is Room with Stakataka, Meowstic, and Malamar all being Trick Room setters. And Stakataka round 5 is obviously really strong. This along with Beast Boost, crazy defense, and a pretty reliable Trick Room setter, outside of being targeted by a fighting or ground type move. And then Marowak, Alola obviously being a great abuser. We were talking a little bit about how Meowstic is quite a broken Pokemon. I think it was probably underpriced a little bit here, but Fake Out, Prankster's Greens, Prankster T-Wave, Prankster Sun as well makes it quite a good pickup for this team.
Yeah.
Does it get Fake Tier soon?
I'm not sure if it does get Fake Tiers off the top of my head, but just like the Screens, T-Wave, Taunt... No, it doesn't get Taunt. It doesn't get Taunt this gen, it did last gen. But like, it provides such a ridiculous amount of disruption for opposing teams, as well as just having a Prankster Sunny Day, so that you aren't relying on Ninetales. If you don't have Torkoal or Groudon as your Sunsetter, it's nice to have other options for Sunsetters, and Meowstic is, I think, like Meowstic and Sableye really stand out to me as like the stellar backup Sun setters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, just on top of that, like Landorus is good. I think it gets the thing that is, I think it gets Tickle, which is a -1 attack, -1 defense, which is obviously nice if you're using the physical options like Stakataka or Charizard. Or Landorus, I meant to say.
Right. Yeah, so this team really has threats on threats. Charizard with the really strong G-Max move in Sun just is an absolute killing machine. Heliolisk is quite strong in the low tiers as well, and is good at taking care of like water types. Yep. That might be a big issue for Stakataka, Ninetales, Charizard, and Landorus, and Marowak. And then of course Marowak being a really, really strong Pokemon as well with Thick Club. And
then
boosted fire
when you're
moves.
stacking that, with the fire move, with the raw power of Flare Blitz or Max Flare off of Flare Blitz, the numbers just get so big, it's ridiculous. And it also provides Lightning Rod for Marowak.
Yeah. So yeah, this team, it's not perfect. It does rely a lot on firing off really strong fire type moves specifically and having Sun up, but it has okay options out of the Sun. You have the Stakataka, the Lando, even the Marowak doesn't really need Sun. And then there's also Fletchling for Tailwind, because this is an interesting Sun team where their Chlorophyll user, instead of being Venusaur or even like Vileplume, is a Lilligant, which has, it's pretty strong with 110 special attack.
Very limited coverage.
After you, but it has basically Solar Beam.
It's more like a support mode, because it does have the After You. That After You is really convenient. The Pollen Puff is really convenient, but it's not going to be hitting anywhere near as hard as a lot of the other ones, despite the fact that it will be hitting hard, just mostly with grass moves.
Yeah.
But they also pressure a lot of the grass
moves
very hard. Yeah, it does have Sleep Powder. This team obviously...
And then there's Malamar.
Broken Malamar. This team obviously has very good physical maxes. Landorus is amazing, Stakataka is amazing, Marowak is amazing. It has one of the strongest special maxes in Charizard, but then it also has Heliolisk with solar power. It functions very strong in thing, and you can use Malamar specially. And theoretically, in some games where they don't have like a strong steel, Lilligant can function very effectively. This team doesn't really have a great weakness policy, but it's got a lot of immediate power despite the lack of weakness policy through the 2 solar power mons, through the fact that Stakataka is incredibly stellar. But they don't really have an easy way to proc weakness policies. Like Fletchling can flying move into Lilligant, but that's probably not something you're going to want. Like, you're already going to want to have Sun up at that point, and then Lilligant, like we said, doesn't really have a way to hit steals, which is a fundamental flaw it has, despite the fact that 99% of mons seem to have access to Weather Ball. They didn't deign to give it to Lilligant, so yeah. And then the speed tiers drop between like Lilligant and Malamar, which is a bit awkward. And then it doesn't really go above Heliolisk, which is not as good as it could be. But they do have the Galing's Tailwind, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so overall, this team has it's got the fast, it's got the slow, it's got insane damage output. The thing that they really lack overall is they don't have the best type diversity. There's going to be some types that they're going to struggle with a little bit. But overall,
yeah,
really
very strong,
really
A- team. Really strong team.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, moving on to Avent.
One of the fellow Div mods. Well, which HGK also was. I forgot to mention.
Yes. So this team is so interesting because it starts with Indeedee female, which you usually see paired up with Hatterene, which we saw Eaglegene had. But instead of going in that direction of Trick Room or really abusing Psychic Terrain, they just said, fuck it, my next 3 picks are going to be Rain, and then I'm going to take Bronzong and Ride On for Lightning Rod and Scizor.
Yeah.
So
I think the Bronzong was originally an Azumarill. I'm not entirely sure why they switched that around. But yeah, this is also the person who had Kingdra, and they picked up Credillia for me. And sorry, they picked up Glastrier and Credillia, and I got them Kingdra and Scizor. Obviously, stellar, like, in terms of, outside of Azumarill, like, lacking, like, a strong Aqua Jetmon, this is a really, really powerful Rain team. It's got a good Weather Ball and Thunder Abuser with Hurricane as well, with Zapdos, like, max or non-max, it really strongly benefits from Rain. Kingdra, one of the like strongest straight up just water type spammers, and its defensive profile means it doesn't share any weaknesses with Pelipper outside of Freeze Dry. And Bronzong is really stellar. Like switch in, Scizor benefits very heavily from the thing. I mean, even Frostlass has access to Thunder. I think Kangaskhan does too, but it's probably not going to be using it. And Rhydon definitely does, but it's probably not going to be enjoying the rain too much.
And Frostlass loses its fire weakness because it's an ice type.
Yes, the very
yeah,
relevant.
of course, yeah. Frostlass not being used super defensively, but you can see all of these picks on this team make sense, except for maybe, weirdly enough, the Indeedee, right? The Indeedee here, it offers Psychic Terrain and Redirection, which is amazing, but it's not actually the bulkiest mon in the world. 78 HP, 65 defense, 105 Spadef, and your opponents are definitely going to be prepped with moves that hit it, so it's basically going to be holding a Sash, so it's offering the same thing that Togepi would, but with terrain. And the tricky thing is, what is this team usually doing with that terrain? Well, Bronzong appreciates expanding force being stronger, but then you see Kangaskhan really likes using Fake Out, really likes using Sucker Punch. It does have a few good priority moves. Scizor has Bullet Punch, which it loves using. Riolu is a Prankster Pokemon, which oftentimes I think really on this team is going to be doing coaching next to a physical Kingdra, or a Rhydon or a Scizor, or it's going to be doing Prankster Rain Dance. Potentially, maybe even like a copycat Trick Room thing with Bronzong, maybe.
It's a bit weird because you'd be maxing the Bronzong there, and I feel like you can probably set it up easier with Indeedee.
Right, but overall, it's hard to see why exactly this team came after the Indeedee pick. But that said, the rain mode is quite strong. The issue this team may end up encountering is Pelipper not being the best rain setter, but it is going to be coming to the majority of games.
Like, these 3 are probably going to be coming in every single team. And then, what other 3 are going to be coming? Well, hopefully you'd be using Indeedee, because it's really expensive. And then, if you want to go Trick Room, that means that you're going to have the Bronzong here, and then either Rhydon or Scizor as abusers. But then Scizor doesn't like the Bullet Punch, Rhydon's not going to do a crazy amount in rain. Your team doesn't actually mind electric, really. I'm pretty sure the only electric weakness is Pelipper, so then the Lightning Rod isn't that relevant. And like the speed tiers are a bit weird if you're trying to use Scizor as a Trick Room mon. And it's like, really what the direction is. Riolu as a support Pokemon is very annoying to try and fit in, unless you're dropping this and just saying, okay, I'm going full rain, and then I'm going to have Riolu be able to coach Scizor or Kingdra, and then like, this is the team, but then you can side coach me in Psychic Terrain.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Just in case that wasn't clear, or
Yeah, I mean, as far as Prankster users go,
like
Riolu is one of the better ones to have in Psychic Terrain for sure. But still, the team outside of Rain, you got Indeedee, Kangaskhan, Bronzong, Riolu, Rhydon, Scizor, Frostlass. Maybe Zapdos as well.
It's a bit weird.
it is a little bit weird, but still, you know, the
I mean,
rain mode
it's
it
got
doesn't so hard rain
yeah, it's got
that
two
you just
directions. It's got two strong directions, and it doesn't really have a lot outside of those directions. But if it can execute those directions, it should be able to win games, um, which is interesting. It's just that it feels like there are a lot of less consistent mons or mons that don't provide an insane amounts of this team, which I feel like they're going to have to be coming most weeks just because the team relies on them, or the team spent a lot in the case of Indeedee. Like, Pelipper is not a great mon, but it's probably going to have to come most every week because this team doesn't do anything besides Trick Room outside of Rain, and you don't really want to be running Mono Trick Room. And that's going to be constricting what you're bringing, which is unfortunate. But yeah, ultimately, I mean, this team doesn't have great weakness policy of users, and it literally doesn't have Intimidate, but that, like I said, Intimidate's not essential by any means. This is a very offensive team, so it's not really relying on the defensive aspect of Intimidate, which is nice. Yeah, so we gave it a grade B. That's pretty decent. Now let's get on to Mixed Team. Mixed Team, yeah, I mean, Whimsicott, incredible support Pokemon. Sorry, I would just say, Jace, we do have to speed this up. It's been taking.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, cool. So Whimsicott, incredible support, mon. Enables Blastoise with Water Spouting. It enables, like with Fake Tear Support, it really helps Celesteela get maxes off. It can beat up into Terrakion, which is great. They've got Fake Out Support and Pikachu. Blacephalon they picked because Chandelure went like literally the pick like 3 picks before, I think. And they were relying on Chandelure, so then they picked Blacephalon instead. Doesn't really do that much. Jinx is one of the best support ones in 10 points. Lovely Kiss is incredible. It's got fast Fake Out, and it's got other good support moves like a strong Icy Wind, which are relevant. Tangler is another option here as a support mon. We made those the default picks, and then Tangler with Chlorophyll, and then Whimsicott with Chlorophyll, I guess, is the idea there. And they have Golduck here with Cloud9. Yeah, not entirely sure about this, but like, yeah, Tangler offers the team redirection. I'm not sure how relevant the redirection is, because a lot of the thing, like the mons that Tangler, so either Grass types are the main threats to Blastoise and Terrakion, which it's redirecting away from. Spread Boost punish Clown very hard, and then Celesteela is also weak to fire, just like Tangler, so it's not really... Like, it's helping with the electric types, but Pikachu's already doing that, so I'm not really sure that Tangler is necessarily the most relevant redirection. I think it's, I mean, it's pretty strong, so it could actually, like, pull off a, like a Chlorophyll game.
Sweep, yeah.
But, like, do you want to be using Tangler for a Chlorophyll game? I
when you have
know.
Celesteela, Blastoise, Terrakion, Blacephalon.
You have a lot of other offensive options.
This team overall,
it's just weird.
It's hard to see all of the ways that it's really designed to do. Really, these last two, especially Golduck and Vulpix, are mainly just coming for niche uses versus specific weather teams. But Whimsicott, Celesteela, Blastoise, and then Terrakion, especially with Whimsicott, and Pikachu, make a lot of sense. Pikachu redirecting electric moves away from Celesteela and Blastoise, that shared weakness, and Celesteela and Blastoise just being such strong offensive Pokemon. Blastoise obviously also offering good support with Fake Out and Icy Wind, Yawn, Helping Hand. It can also Shell Smash, Dynamax, or just Life Orb and Cannonade stuff with that help from Pikachu. Pikachu itself being a good max option as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly strong. And a lot of the Celesteela does benefit from opposing teams, like Speed Control, so if you max Volt Crash and paralyze both the opposing Pokemon, Celesteela really does enjoy that, and Blastoise can as well. So it's definitely not bad by any means.
Yeah, this team, it's interesting because so many of these Pokemon are good, and it's not like
and they have a lot of
synergies.
They have a lot of 2-mon and 3-mon cores that work well, and then they can just slot a support mon or an alternative offensive mon, like a Scarf, Blacephalon, or Terrakion into it, or something like that, and it definitely works very functionally well. But it does lack like anything super significant beyond the Celesteela and then the beat up Terrakion. So ultimately, I think we gave the team B+. It doesn't really have modes outside of Pranks to Tailwind, or just like trying to set up. Like, it doesn't have modes outside of Whimsicott / Fake Out mon, outside of just like a support mon next to a mon that does the thing. Like, it doesn't have like a Trick Room. It doesn't have like a weather option that's real. Like, I don't think Vulpix Tangler or Vulpix Whimsicott is really that.
But at the end of the day, that's not the end of the world because it does have such strong offense. in the top Pokemon.
Yeah, it
All
can
right.
absolutely do that. It is just, I think, both very. Once you see the six that they bring, I think the team is predictable. But I think it will be very difficult to predict the six that will be coming in a game-to-game basis,
Sure.
which is interesting. It's very interesting.
All right. Should we
Now we
move on
go
to
to
the
the
worst
actual
team?
best team. So we have the Cinder Jace, as I said, or
It's me.
Cinder Yachi. Um,
Yeah.
oh no, sorry.
So
Apparently the Weatherman now, right?
yeah, it's the Weatherman. That's me. So
Yep.
Cinderace, Tapu Koko, Eggy, not actually the third pick, just
Eggy,
showing up
egg,
there in the
eggy.
third slot.
If now I will say this right
Uh,
now, if you had had the conviction to make eggy and take it round 3, then I think I would definitely say this was the best team. But you did not have the conviction. You picked it up in
yeah,
3.
alas, I am a weak sauce, submissive and breedable character,
Yes,
and
very,
I
very,
was
very.
not able to pull out the cojones that it needs to make that happen. But yeah, so we have two obviously really fast, really strong offensive Pokemon at the top, Cinderace and Tapu Koko. And then Hitmonlee can abuse the terrain from Tapu Koko. And then you have a pretty standard Redirector and Togetic, Fake Out, um, and Priority Prankster Pokemon and Sableye. And then you have some Trick Room options in Eggy and Slowbro and a budget Tailwind and Articuno. And then kind of an all around other Mon and Flygon. But this team, the clear hole here is that there's no strong synergies. Like we've seen with a lot of these teams, actually, is like, Tapu Koko gives Hitmonlee an Unburden boost, stuff like that. But other
Yeah,
than that, and like Exeggutor and Slowbro both being slow and being able to prop weakness policy on each other down in Trick Room,
yeah,
nothing here is as strong as a Venusaur Torkoal or a Kingdra Pelipper, right?
yeah,
But this team does have a lot of different
yeah.
options.
And it's also a bit weird trying to like set the tailwind with the sorry, not tail Trick Room with this team. Because Togetic is probably not going to be doing a whole lot on Trick Room. But then Slowbro and Eggy are Trick Room setters that are also quite strong. So it's a bit weird in terms of positioning, but it can function.
Right. The big
So,
flaw there, of course, is if you're setting Trick Room with this team has two really slow Pokemon, well, three slow Pokemon if you count Togetic, that set Trick Room. But if you're doing that, then you're not going to be utilizing Cinderace or Tapu Koko, who are both really, really fast. So this team doesn't really like fighting in Trick Room, but then it has at least these two options, which really don't want to come out of Trick Room. So it struggles to know exactly what it wants to be doing. But at the same time, it does have those bases covered, so it can bring a Trick Room mode that's relatively weak or a fast mode that's relatively strong versus teams depending on the matchup.
all right. Sorry about that. I just picked up a phone call.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is a team which has a lot of strong pieces. It lacks like a super significant leaves policy. I mean, I think leaves policy is an overrated item, but you don't, and then your team doesn't really use it outside of the Trick Room options, which
Yeah, I
is
mean,
funny. I mean,
I think a
why
lot
don't we
of
take
teams will
multiple
have like
modes?
their. Sorry.
Why don't we say this team in multiple modes? It does. I don't know why we didn't say that.
Well, the thing with this team is really it has like the Trick Room mode, which is pretty weak, honestly, with Exeggutor and Slowbro both being able to set Trick Room, but neither of them being
Yeah.
immune to Taunt or Fake Out. So
Yeah,
the
but you also
opponent
have a
can
Togetic, so
deal
it's
with
not.
any one of them. Sorry.
But you also have Togetic and your own Fake Out.
That's
To
true.
be able to spot it. So I mean, I think it is. I think the team does have a genuine like Trick Room option. I think that the
Sure.
Trick Room thing's
It
actually
has
pretty
it,
strong.
and then it has the fast mode.
Yeah,
but
and then
there's
just
no like
fast offense.
you got to deal with this big threat and this big threat and this big threat.
Yeah, I mean, Cinderace is an incredible threat, and then I think you also have to take note of the Trick Room, and a lot of mons can't easily fit Taunt into their move slots, especially in a
That's
way
true.
that's able to play around Togetic. Though I guess this team is somewhat weak to Fake Out because Sableye is their only mon that's immune to Fake Out, so whatever mon isn't maxing is probably going to care about Fake Out being an average thing. I don't think anything is in a focus unless I'm blind.
No.
Yeah, I mean, this team's speed tiers are also a bit weird, just going from the Flygon Cinderace, and then the Melodic Sableye. Nothing in that like 60-70 range is a bit awkward. But like Slowbro Glar is pretty decent Trick Room on. No Intimidate, but you've got a lot of other good ways to mitigate damage with Togetic. Obviously, Togetic is super bulky. It has access to Life Dew, which it can click a lot due to its bulk. It can use redirection. It can set up screens. It can pass out Helping Hands. Sableye can also pass out Helping Hands. Quash can also function as damage mitigation, which is really nice. as
It
well
also
as
has
the Prankster Wisp.
Prankster Will-O-Wisp as well.
Yeah. So it's quite strong. It also has like actual Snarl, and Cinderace also has Wisp and Snarl, right? Or wait, does it have Wisp?
No.
No, it doesn't. But it does have Snarl. I've seen people run that before.
Yes, it has Snarl and coaching as well.
Yeah.
And then Tapu Koko gets screens as well. And then of course Melodic is a very hard Pokemon to kill. Yeah, this team it's different for me from what I've historically liked to draft. I mean, it at
It's
first
so smart.
glance doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but
I
you
mean,
can see a
it's
lot of
good.
these.
I think Melodic is also pretty good with Cinderace. I think those two mons have good synergy with each other.
Yeah, a lot of these mons cover each other well. There's a few physical attackers here, which want Intimidate to come, which is then great for Melodic. Melodic is weak to grass and electric. There's a Flygon to deal with the electric types, and Cinderace to deal with
both
grass types.
times 4.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's fundamentally pretty solid team. We gave it a B+. Now on to Haka's team. Haka picked Urshifu first overall. That's right. You decided that their team was one direction because their team has one direction, which is
so this,
just breaking with Urshifu. Like they
team
have
is
they have a physical breaker and a special breaker, being Urshifu and Porygon, and then their only other relevant attackers are Copperajah and Slowking. I think Copperajah is awful, and I think Slowking is not that relevant. I don't think they really abuse Trick Room. Like that, it's like, they have Clefairy or Purloin next to it, or one of their other fake out mons to set up Trick Room, to then abuse it with Gastrodon.
or Copperajah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, this team is that's what we were saying, is that it's really, really strong, right? Urshifu, Clefairy, Talonflame, Porygon, add in maybe Purloin, right, for fake out and prankster shenanigans, is really, really hard to deal with. Urshifu is going to be able to beat down the Steels and the Ghosts that Porygon struggles with, and Porygon is going to be able to
very
smash
demanding.
especially with Clefairy Redirection and Talonflame Tailwind. What this team starts to struggle with as much as, like, it's really just doing that one thing. Slowking, Copperajah, not making the most sense. Gastrodon really only redirecting water moves from Talonflame, which doesn't really care about water moves anyways, because it's basically getting up Tailwind and dying anyways. And then Scraggy and Lopunny are both kind of doing the same things that Purloin is doing, right? Lopunny is going to be tricking stuff. Scraggy has got Fake Out and Intimidate, but Purloin has Charm, with Prankster Charm, which is similar to what Scraggy's doing anyways, and plus there's big EV-led competition between Clefairy, Purloin, and Scraggy. This team is going to be super duper duper scary to face this specific mode of Urshifu, Clefairy, Talonflame, Porygon Z, but outside of those 4, which Pokemon are you bringing? Why are you bringing them? How is Hacker going to switch up his play from game to game? If he can, and especially if he can make some transactions maybe to beef up these modes a little bit and maybe reduce some of these redundancies, this team could be insanely difficult to prep for, especially with round 7 Porygon Z. But with really just this one mode being the thing that makes sense, it didn't feel quite as scary as like Sevi or Miso's team.
Yeah. It's super intimidating in terms of options, but then in execution, I feel like if you can manage to disrupt it, like Talonflame, I don't know. All right, Talonflame, I think this is less relevant for this like pre-evolutions, but if you hit it with a priority move that is faster than +1, then Gale Wings doesn't function this turn. So then you just need to hit it with a like an extreme speed or a fake out or a feint or literally any +2 move, and it will move slower than a 130 base mon, which means that they won't get speed control. Urshifu has the really crippling Dazzling Gleam weakness, which doesn't really matter that much, like if you can redirect it. Though obviously Friend Guard does help that with the combination of the fact that it's a spread move. Like and then Porygon super weak to Snarls. Like spread moves, this team doesn't really have an incredible way of stopping the spread moves that annoy this team. And both the mons being, well, I mean Porygon being just a special attacker in general, doesn't like Snarl, and then Urshifu is super weak to Dazzling Gleam. But I think we counted, and like Togepi's Dazzling Gleam with Friend Guard is only a 2-hit KO into Urshifu if it's an uninvested Togepi. No, that's pretty good.
Yep.
If it puts an Assault Vest on, it's a 3-hit KO.
There you go. Yeah.
Also, technically they can weakness policy proc Urshifu with Talonflame, but like, they're not saying Tailwind.
Right.
Yeah. They just yeah, and then
That's
massive
something they
speed
can do.
drop
Yeah.
from Talonflame to Lopunny, and Lopunny is only like kind of real, so it's really a massive speed drop from Talonflame to Urshifu, and then it's from Porygon to Purloin, which it's just not
Yeah. So
great.
very
Also,
good
yeah,
in a lot of ways.
a lot of EVL uses. I don't know if we mentioned that yet, but Clefairy, Purloin,
Yeah, we
and
did.
Scraggy are all EVL users. Um,
Yeah.
Hopeless's team.
So yeah, really, really, really
Oh,
strong
yeah.
mode, but overall
Yeah, we gave
has some
it
issues.
a B plus. Um, I mean, not every team will be able to disrupt that mode. If they can manage to stop opposing teams getting out Trick Room, they'll be strong. Or if they are bringing like their own Trick Room mons, they can disrupt. Yeah. So Hopeless's team. Hopeless's team has a lot of phenomenal pieces that I wanted. How dare you take both Moltres and Metagross? That was very rude. They had also taken Bronzong round 3, but they traded that to Event for Azumarill. And it was very interesting. And then I don't know. I don't really know what happened. I like this team more when it had Bronzong. Now it's only Setter.
And this team is spooky. It's got Moltres, Metagross, Azumarill, Rotom, Dragalge, all really, really strong maxes. Runerigus can use weakness policy well.
Yeah, well, with Azumarill, you can give it +2/+2 and huge power.
Yes, right. If you Aqua Jet it, it's
say,
worth noting that
that's
Water
like a
Spirit
specific
doesn't
thing.
activate when it's Dynamaxed, but
that's not. Is that true?
That is true. That is true. If Runerigus is Dynamaxed, then you can't Aqua Jet it with Azumarill, or you can, but it would just give it a +2 weakness
I
policy
did not
boost.
know the Wandering Spirit does not activate while you are Dynamaxed. That's
right.
This
Yep.
new news to me.
That's it. It has 95 attacks, so it's not like it absolutely needs huge power plus +2 attack to get the KOs.
I mean, but then it would be effectively like having 4 times attack, which is the same as +6, and that'd be very strong. I mean, yeah, it's already strong with +2, +2. And yeah, I mean they have a lot of strong mods. They have Togepi for redirection. They have like main
strongest mod on their team.
Good damage. I mean, it's broken. Well, I don't know. Togepi against a Friend Guard boosted Urshifu is like, it's not always beating that Friend Guard boosted Urshifu. It's not a perfect mod, unfortunately.
You just need Specs or Nasty Plant Togepi.
Yeah, they have Metagross, and then their way to proc Metagross is bulldozing it with Dugtrio, which means they're bringing Dugtrio, and Dugtrio is going to die to like every priority move because it's 35, 50, 70 defensive.
Right. Yeah. They actually do have, funny enough, 2 Sucker Punch users in Galarian Moltres and Rotom.
Yeah.
You don't really want it on either of them, but those are options as well.
I mean, you can run Sucker on Rotom, probably more so than you want to run on Moltres, but then you're just not getting speed control with the weakness policy Metagross, which Bulldoze is at least potentially giving you.
That's one of the things that makes Metagross so strong.
Yeah, but you don't want to Bulldoze with Rude in Trick Room, because then your Metagross is going to be faster than everything.
True. Yeah.
This team lacks Tailwind, which is kind of
true. Yeah, this team does not have the best speed on the upper end. No Tailwind, and Mienshao is really the fastest Pokemon besides Dugtrio, which, being so frail, it doesn't really matter how fast it is. You're getting off one move, maybe an ally switch if you're lucky, and then dying. But it does have such strong Pokemon, really, just Moltres, Metagross, Azumarill, Rotom, Dragalge, even Rhinoculus. You have to prep for all of them as max threats that can come and mess you up. Togepi redirection, and with Manectric redirection, those electric moves coming towards Moltres and Azumarill, there's a lot here to worry about.
Yeah, and if you're not taking Azumarill seriously, Belly Drum can really mess up a team.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, we like this team overall. It has some issues, especially with the speed, but it covers a lot of the bases. It checks almost all the boxes that we worry about.
That's right.
Outside of stuff that's related to speed, with great offense, good damage.
Everyone in the audience say this team was given a grade of B+. B+. That's right. Strong B+ team.
This is 1, 2, 3, 4 teams in a row that get a B+. And then we move on to Shiny Pika.
Shiny Pika, previous season's finalist. Oh, I forgot to mention Miso won the previous season and last season, and then Jace, you won the season before.
Yep,
and then Avent won this first season. I think Avent played Haida in finals. I don't know who you played.
No, Avent played Piranha. Avent played Piranha in finals. I played Haida in finals.
Oh, you played Haida in finals. I knew Haida was in one of the finals. So here we have. That's right. So wait, we have all of the winners and all of the finalists have come back. This is very
Yeah.
powerful. So this team is coal, which means it is broken, and then this team just kind of falls off a cliff.
What? It doesn't fall off a cliff necessarily. It more
This team has
catapults
no,
over
it
to a
falls- it falls-
separate cliff.
Nothing happens on this team after the first 3 Pokemon. Just nothing happens. They have the Sylveon, but they already have Primarina. They don't have, like, they pick up what, Zapdos or Unburden Lipod to benefit from quick attack policy boosts.
Oh shit!
Like,
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Yeah, I mean this team does have.
we did talk
Silver
about that. I
Palisade.
mentioned that when we
Well,
were talking. I did mention it just doesn't do anything. Or like you can Aquajet Excelgor with the Absorb Bolt.
Absorb, yeah,
like
and then be
doesn't do anything.
finally your Excelgor is fast.
Yeah, and then you have like Sandvale for yeah, finally Excelgor is fast. And then you can Water Shuriken Panel Sand, and then it has +6 defense if you get 3 hits, and +2 defense, +4.
Yeah, I mean this team
+4
has
+2.
a lot of
And
gimmicks,
then,
right?
Like
but
it's
the
just
issue is that
it's just as gimmicks,
it
and the only one
doesn't
that's good
actually
is
do a
Cole.
lot of things.
Like-
Right, it has the Coal gimmick. It has the Excelgor Panel Sand gimmick. It has Life Bard doing like copycat Trick Room with Beam and then Sucker Punch again for a weakness
and that-
policy
and
boost.
that
That's
has,
like a thing they could do.
Battery Analytic for Behem to get like super strong moves off. I believe
But it
there's
has to
one.
be going. But that only matters if it's going second, and Behem is
Yeah,
not okay.
which means you don't want to set
second.
Trick Room. Like, I mean, you want to be maxed in. I'm pretty sure Behem has one of the strongest max moves in the game, because of Analytic. But like,
Sure, maybe.
who cares? Like, okay,
Yeah,
cool,
it's-
but you're gonna be dying in 2 hits anyway, so then you're spending your max on a meme. It's just so much of this team is just memes. So I struggle to see this team being super consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
The
think that's
the
pretty what it
Zapdos
comes down to.
is here to counter stuff like Intimidate, but there are no other physical Pokemon on this team. Ferrothorn is your grass type
Ferrothorn.
on a coal team, and you really need something that can actually kill water types, and this team doesn't have anything to kill water types besides Solar Beam from coal, so you're maybe going to
And-
bring offensive Ferrothorn.
And Thunder Gambit Excelgor was what we said in prep. Like that's it.
Right, yeah.
Or like
We were saying
you Fake Tears it
Gambit
with
Excelgor.
Lightbard, and then at -2 defense it might die to rock moves from Cole. Like that's it. It's really it's just gimmicky and it's matchup fishing. That's the entire team. The entire team is purely just matchup fishing, and I'm not sure that it can fish matchups that effectively. I think this
Now,
is the
Shinapika has
least fun way to
shown that
draft
they're-
the team. Yeah, I mean, obviously Shanapika is a good player, but yeah, I just think this team is fundamentally just like you have a single hole in your team, then I win. And if you don't have the
Then I
specific
will
hole
bring
that I exploit,
Then
I
I lose.
don't know that I do anything besides Cole. Like,
All right, Piranha Plant.
yeah. Oh, and
Last one.
so we gave the team a grade of C minus. Its speed tiers of tear it. It goes 60 to 100 / 106, and then to 145. Has 0 redirection. It has like no intimidate. It doesn't really have modes. It just has gimmicks. It doesn't have damage mitigation outside of setting like manual screens or like the snarl specifically from Lipod, which is like okay, but not that great. Just on its lonesome. Yeah, Piranha Plant, the former finalist Piranha Plant from season 1, is back with Rillaboom and Regieleki. And that was
Yeah,
wrong.
Rillaboom, Regieleki, Arcanine, Rotom Wash. This is like a Firewater Grass.
Does
or-
have Prankster Taunt with Regieleki.
Regieleki gets taunt?
No, he has Prankster Taunt with Regieleki. Didn't I say earlier that I didn't think the team with Regieleki had Prankster Taunt?
Oh, I don't even remember that far back. What was
I
that,
think
like an
We're
hour
talking
ago?
about Crobat.
Anyways.
Regieleki and Codney. I mean, I don't know that you necessarily need Codney with much of this team, but it is a Pokemon that they have. I mean, Fake Tears is nice, I guess.
This team overall is really cool, right? They have just like super strong, good Pokemon in the top. There's some small flaws, right, with like Regieleki and Rotom Wash sharing and typing, but Firewater Grass is a proven combo. Drifblim, as Electric said, kind of the best Tailwind setter, especially with Rillaboom
Yeah.
giving it that.
It's
Unburdened
very difficult to
boost.
stop Drifloon setting Tailwind, because what if it's Mental Herb and then you proc its Unburden when you taunt it with Prankster? What do you? There's no counterplay to that. I'm sorry. Oh,
There's no counterplay to Drizzle.
no counterplay to
It's
Drizzle.
got
Well, they have Regieleki,
good
which is the
fake
only
out
mon that
users.
can really outspeed and kill Drizzler, which is super.
Right, and they have.
Yeah.
And then they have Rillaboom and Persian and also Squirtle for fake out. They have a great Prancer
Yeah.
user in
Basis
Cottony.
Swirtle.
They have Regirock as a weakness policy sweeper. Yeah, overall, like, this team has a lot of good stuff going on. That's why it's called a good stuffs team. It just kind of lacks a few things to give it je ne sais quoi to really
Right,
bring it out.
It's
make it
a team with very decent fundamentals, and then it lacks very specific execution. Like,
Right.
Claydol obviously is. Sorry, we think Claydol is not a good trick room setter.
Well, it's base 75 speed, and it's a Claydol.
It's
So
got
fake out,
a
it's
lot of
with taunt.
weaknesses, and the things like they have several levitate mons and then grassy terrain, so they're not benefiting from their own grassy terrain. Which I mean, obviously other mons are there still, but like Drifloon benefits from grassy terrain because it has like the unburdened memes, right? But then Rotomosh and Claydol do not, and also they're both weak to grassy glide from opposing Pokemon and just grass moves in general. And then this seems
Along with Regirock.
only really like. Oh yeah, I mean obviously yeah, Regirock is also weak to grass, but
And
like those two specifically.
Squirtle, too.
Squad will be very real and genuine threat. I mean, it has access to fake out and like 60 attack or something. No, it's 48 attack and 50 attack.
Yeah.
It's basically the best mon
Well,
in
it
the
has-
format.
It has
Um,
Aqua Jet, right? For Claydol, Regirock, and Arcanine. That's why it's here. And
Yeah.
for Absorb Bulb, Regieleki.
Absorb Bulb, Regieleki. It's not as good as Snowball because you don't abuse acrobatics as much, but it's something they have.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rillaboom is a phenomenal Pokemon. Regieleki is a phenomenal Pokemon. Arcanine is one of the better Intimidators in the format. Rotomosh is very strong. Drifloon is great. All in Persian has a lot of usable support options. And if you combine Furco with Grassy Seed for the defense boost, it gets very, very difficult to kill, even with like fighting type moves. I don't quote me on this, but I believe you can EV it to with the Grassy Seed boost, live close combat from Zapdos Galar, which is obviously a very strong fighting type. Like it can get a lot of hit a lot of benchmarks with that. So it is some synergy there, and obviously it provides also fast icy wind. The Drifloon also already does that. So
And the beat up into the Arcanine.
yeah, and the beat up for the Arcanine. Which I don't think Drifloon gets, sadly. But yeah, like they have options. I always forget that Arcanine's justified, even though I used it before. Yeah, I mean, and then Cottony just has like Colton Spore and the ability removing thing that I'm trying to remember the name of.
Worry Seed.
Yeah, Worry
Yeah,
Seed.
yeah. This team is pretty strong overall. It's definitely like of the ones with. I think it might be the only team that we gave a B. Spoiling the grade. They got a B.
Yeah, they got a B.
It's the only team I think that we give a B to. But the thing that puts it just slightly under the rest of the B plus teams is it kind of lacks strong modes.
It doesn't.
Like a lot
It
of the
doesn't
other
have a
ones do.
single bond that I would say functions consistently as a win condition outside of Regirock, and it doesn't have good support for Regirock. In fact, I would say Grassy Terrain is actively bad support for Regirock, and lack of like a real Trick Room setter is not good for Regirock either.
Yeah, I think if his Claydol was
It
a
doesn't have
slightly
Steel
better
either.
Pokemon, it would be a big difference. Yeah, it doesn't have Steel, it doesn't have a fighting type.
I mean, yeah, I
not,
think
not,
that
not huge drag.
in terms of typings that are important, I think Steel is one of the most important typings. Like, I think that Firewater Grass is a mandatory. I think that you always want a flying type and you always want a ground, though you can sometimes not have a flying type if you just have a Levitator. And then I think that it's essential to have a Steel and a Dark and a Fairy, and then this team just does not have a Steel.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, and then this team just like dumpsters water types, just excessively. Like,
The best two water type counters in the game plus Rotomosh.
yeah, and then Arcanine is a fire type with electric coverage, so and grass coverage, so it doesn't care about waters anyway. Like,
True, and Burnout.
yeah, and then it also has Cottony, so it's like I don't know. It seems like it goes overly hard into like I mean so far we've not seen many teams that are super reliant on water types outside of the rain team. So then like what is the point of just going so hard specifically against it? It feels like a lot of the stuff that they go to do it feels like they overkill on some aspects. Like I said, on like checking water types, and then like I don't really know where it's like going on from there. Ward and Wash only kind of benefiting from rising voltage is a bit unfortunate. So if you do max the Elecki, then having the electric spam it's not as electric spam as it could be, but it's still good, still a strong one.
Yeah. Whereas if you max Ward and Wash, then maybe you can fully abuse rising voltage.
Yeah, if you max the Road and Wash,
but then it's going
abuse voltage. Though I was thinking
Anyways.
of like a physical one. Yeah, I mean it's a solid team. It's gonna be for beautiful, just like Piranha.
Be for beautiful. This is a beautiful team. It's very colorful. All right.
Very beautiful.
So now we look at our top 5 rankings.
Yep, the top 5. Okay, I didn't know what this was gonna look like, but I guess this is what it looks like. Okay, so coming in at number 5th, Hopeless with the grade of B+. So I guess I'll look at. I didn't see this tab. I just expected it to have like a screenshot of their mons or something, but I guess I'll go back to the tabs.
No.
So yeah, this is Hopeless's team with the Metagross and the Moltres and stuff. It's got options. It's got some incredibly strong. Like Moltres is one of the best Pokemon in the format. Metagross is one of the best Pokemon in the format. Having both is super strong, but it doesn't necessarily have the most coherent team philosophy around abusing these incredibly good Pokemon. But they can definitely function anyways. Jace's team, the San Francisco 40 Grimers. That's a lot of Grimers, you know. That's like at least that's 4 10s. Does anyone remember the 4 10s meme from like 2017? I want to say.
No. Okay. No, we have to finish. Yes, team.
Oh no, I realized we have like 15 minutes left.
Great Pokemon. Good Pokemon.
Coco,
good team.
I mean, it's got 2 modes. Both of them feature strong Pokemon with a decent enough synergy with each other. Scribble's team, the Colorado Cabalians. I need to find it by hunting. Scribble's team, Dragapult, Thornpaw. Oh yeah, I mean Sand, and then like Pult that you actually support stuff with. Very strong. Pretty good. Miso's team. Sun is broken. Landorus is really good.
Team.
And then like Trick Room as well. Now the real key is to run Fletchling Tailwind and then Scarf Stack Attacker and then Rock Slide Fletch things.
Oh shit. Incredible. And then the number 1 team that we thought was our very first team that we looked over.
First overall pick.
Sebi's Monfernos.
Togekiss.
Such a strong team.
Such a strong team. Like
so few flaws in this team.
Yeah, like this team was like super close to an A+ even.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it just had like
an incredibly strong team.
One more fake out user.
Yeah, if it had like a more solid fake out user, or it had
or like slightly better speed tiers. Yeah.
No, I think there was something else that we mentioned that we didn't wind up mentioning on the thing today. I think you wanted a fighting type on this team.
Oh.
So maybe if the if the Wartortle was
body
like
press on months now.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good team. It's a very, very, very strong team. So. Thank you all for watching, and please feel free to check out my draft breakdown. And World Pokemon Federation is a cool thing. Jace is also the guy. I should have said this at the start. Jace is the guy who did all of the cool art for the div. Not that you saw literally any of it in this video, but it'll be in the thumbnail. So check it out, guys.
All right.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching.